Welcome, welcome everyone. As you can see, we are not at third space today.
Welcome to Dan's office.
Yes, welcome to my office. So, no, we had actually closed down, or just
for today.
Just for today, the dinner church meal. So we just didn't have the meal today, but we did want to proceed with the dinner church devotion. So here we are today, and we're going to be talking about fear. And my wife is with me today, so we're actually having a little bit of a discussion this morning about this very message. So
yeah, normally Dan is teaching through the book of
Matthew.
I was going to say, wait, Mark, no, Matthew. And so we're taking a little bit of a break because 2020 has been an interesting year. And so this just felt like in the season during Thanksgiving, as we're heading into the holidays, in such a strange year, we thought we'd do something a little different. So
absolutely. So we'll just start with a passage of scripture. And for those of you who are online, feel free to send your comments, and we'll try to do our best to chat with you as we're kind of just discussing this whole topic of fear, and specifically the question, is fear a sin? So go ahead and read Isaiah 41:10 for us.
It says, "Don't be afraid, for I am with you. Don't be frightened, for I am your God. I strengthen you. Yes, I help you. Yes, I uphold you with my saving right hand."
All right. So fear, when you think of fear, what comes to your mind? Is it something that you're afraid of? Is it something else? There's a lot of things that people are afraid of, but we were thinking of kind of the big categories, like I mentioned this morning. And one of those categories is we tend to fear when there are things outside of our control. And that can include a whole lot of things, honestly. So circumstances to just very many things that are really outside of our immediate control. We also fear when we begin to think about negative comments or outcomes rather. Yes, thank you. So sometimes we think of negative outcomes in our own situations as it relates to us. Other times we think of it in terms of those, loved ones that we have, parents,
our kids.
Yeah, parents sometimes think about their kids. So when we begin to think about negative outcomes, a lot of times we fear. How about fear when it's related to our future security or even our future significance?
Yeah.
So I know some have even there's like this whole study on the fear of success and how people actually fear. It's a very interesting, but many things we fear when it comes to future security. Are we financially stable? Those type of questions, but also significance. Am I making a difference? Am I being noticed in this world? So am I leaving my mark at all? So that's one way. How about also our physical well-being? We fear when our physical well-being is endangered in some way or another. So those are just different categories of fear. Maybe you can relate to or identify with one of those. But the question that we're really asking here then is fear sinful? Because we're often told in Scripture not to fear. In fact, one of the most written statements in the Scriptures is God actually speaking to people saying, "Do not fear." So now, when we look at fear and we have that reaction of fear to whatever it would be, it's really hard not to have the reaction, right? So just say I'm even driving in the car and a deer runs out in front of me. In that moment when I know like I'm going to hit it, there's a kind of a fear reaction. So you can't almost control when that fear reaction is going to come on you. So that's not sinful. When it comes on you, that's not sinful. But how you address that reaction, what you do with that fear once it's on you, once you've experienced that, because fear is more than just a feeling, and it has significant implications. for our lives.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with fear? You know, some of us nurse fear. Like when we're fearful, it's almost like we
We think of every bad scenario and we're feeding into it, and
Yeah.
we're just kind of nursing it along, and it's
Feed it-
becoming bigger and bigger in our minds. So
yeah, feeding into it's a great word like that. So yeah, we just nurse it. It's almost like our pet.
yeah,
And
and it becomes so familiar to sometimes that we don't really know how to let go of it because it's just become this familiar thing. So
yeah, exactly. Sometimes we use fear to motivate others too. This also is sinful when we use fear to motivate others.
Or do you need to motivate ourselves as well? You know, sometimes fear motivates us to do things that maybe are self-focused, that are we were talking about this morning, because fear can cause us to make a right response or a wrong response. And anytime we use it to try to control others, manipulate others, or we try to elevate ourselves in some way in response to it would be a sinful pattern as well.
Yeah. And then too, when we're just putting lots of fear out there, trying to make people fearful, that's not healthy either. So
yeah.
And when fear paralyzes us, and when we allow it to paralyze us, to keep us from moving forward, from making decisions that need to be made and so forth, that's not good either. And then when we begin to build on fear, like we actually use fear as a foundation to build on, that's not good either, because when fear becomes a foundation, we develop usually unhealthy or coping mechanisms to that fear, whether it's a running mechanism. You know, we're always running from something, always trying to hurt others because it's kind of like that. You think of a cat that's cornered and they begin then hissing. You know, they have this fear, and their response to it is to hiss and to get angry, to hurt someone, to hurt others. So some retaliation can be a response to fear. And then more than anything, really just trusting self as opposed to trusting God. So yeah, those are all I think sinful things that we do with fear once it's on us. But again, just having the reaction fear is not a sin in itself. It's what we do with that reaction. So how do we address fear? How do we actually address fear? Well, I think let's talk about knowledge, because knowledge is the way that we really address fear. And of course, knowledge of God, of who He is, and who we are in light of Him. So first of all, just knowledge of the Scriptures, that can remove fear. It's a way of dealing with fear, because there's a truth there that sets you free from many different lies and from false identities, from many things. So and as common ground, we try to very much reveal the truth. We try to teach the Scriptures. In fact, I have a Bible Bites that I put out weekly, and it's just short little clips going through the book of Matthew, trying to help people get into the Bible and read through the life of Jesus, his biography, and so forth. But also knowing who God is. And God has many different attributes, from his love, his justice, his might, or his power. The fact that he is a master of all circumstances, that he ordains things. So God is knowing his character, understanding who he is and his attributes, but also knowing our purpose, because God created everything. He created us, and we have a purpose before him. So knowing what that purpose is, and how we walk in life fulfilling that purpose before him, that's important too. And then we come to one that's knowing how God can take what might seem horrible circumstances and bring something good of it. We use the word redeem there. And I know you had, great examples to share from your own life about that.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we were talking about this during this season. So 2020 has been a very weird year for a lot of people, and for some of us, it's been life-changing, life-altering. So anybody who knows me knows I had a major cardiac event back in March of this year that really changed my life. It's kind of turned it upside down, and for a while, I was definitely going through the grief, and I really struggled with fear for a little bit. Just being full transparency, but one of the things that really helped me and helped me to bring myself back out of that was to focus. That was it, as just focusing on the Lord during that time. I can remember being in my hospital room and just, reading my Bible and just calling out to the Lord and saying, help me to find you in the middle of this, because I was in such a dark place, in my mind, especially, and the anxiety of how my life was about ready to change and be completely different than it ever had been. So I had to kind of answer that one question was, for me, realizing that God could have stopped it. I don't think he caused it. I really don't. There was a lot of things that I don't think he caused it, but he could have said no. He could have stopped it. He didn't, because I think there was something greater to come from it. And he knew that. And my life, even though it is completely changed, has changed for the better. And I've grown, and I'm deeper in relationship with God than I ever have been. I've been able to comfort others with the comfort that he gave me. He gives me greater compassion on others because of what I've experienced. These are all beautiful things that have come from a time of deep waters and suffering, but it was a choice to turn from fear and trust in God.
Yeah. So God can take our circumstances, our hurts, our pains, our struggles, everything. He can redeem those things. So bring good out of it. So it's not only good to know who God is, but it's good to know God himself. Mm-hmm. And God actually created us to be relational beings. I think God is relational, not that he needs us, but he knows how to enjoy relationship. And he wants us to enjoy that also, that relationship. So recognizing that we have an interdependence with God, meaning we truly are dependent on him. He is not dependent on us, but we are dependent on him. And yet things that God has ordained, decisions he's made, he allows us to make certain decisions and to move on certain actions and so forth, to bring about things, to bring about circumstances, change, and so forth. That's part of this idea of when God created, for us to rule and have dominion, to be fruitful, to multiply, all this. So there's this sense of interdependence with God, that we actually work with him to bring about his glory, to bring about his attributes. We're his ambassador, so to speak. Amen. And then every relationship has to have trust, right? So the Bible uses the word faith a lot there. You might use the word confidence, but really, truly being able to trust God, take him at his word and what he says. And of course, what does he say? That goes right back to the scriptures, and having a truly relationship with him, learning what he says. So yeah, hopefully, as you think through fear, we've answered the question for you. Not a sin to have that reaction, but certainly a sin can be a sin depending on what we do with that fear. Yeah. And hopefully we gave you some good ways just to think through, how do I deal with fear, and how can I begin to deal with fear by getting deeper with God. So in these various aspects. And
feel free to reach out to us if there's anything that we can answer for you. We're happy to help in any way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, hey, we will see you next week. So be expecting 5:30. I'm sure we'll be back in Third Space in our ministry center. So looking forward to being with you then. Hey, we'll see everyone.
Bye.